welcome to January in A Year Gardening, and I'm just showing you some pictures of the frost and the coldness outside as we are running through January. However, in this show we're going to show you the planning, the projects and the planting as I promised you I would. The first project we've got is putting up the polytunnel, so let me show you that now. So now we're going to start with the first project of 2021. And the first project I have for this year is constructing the polytunnel and putting that in place to be getting some more plants underway, and also to grow my brassicas under cover so that we don't get the butterfly problems that we've had over the last couple of years. So that's going to be growing down where I normally grow my beans and my peas. I've marked out the area, I've got the frame here, but once the frame is constructed, then I'm going to be cutting some timbers, sinking those in the ground as anchors, drilling some holes in them, and then using rope over the top of the polytunnel to give it added security when the winds come through, because we do get a bit of a wind whipping through here, and this garden is totally open to the northwest, and we do get some rather winds coming through, and I don't want to be losing it very early on. So here's a little bit of a story of how we're going to be building the polytunnel. Well, that's the first levelling of the ground to take the polytunnel. Now what we have got to do now is get the steel tubular frame and assemble that. The site then start the levelling process before we start securing, so that's my next job. So that is the frame now built. What we've now got to do is we've got to cut some timber posts to make the anchors for four corners and the middle, and the same along this side into the ground, and they will be sunk into the ground with some post mix, and they will hold the ropes which will run over the top to secure this in high winds. But that's a pleasing morning's work. Well, now I have dug the holes for the posts, and I've drilled a hole through each of them. There's 3 that side and 3 this side, and that is going to take the rope that holds the polytunnel in place. What I'm now going to do is I've got some fast setting postcrete which I'm going to put into each of the holes. That will take around about 15 to 20 minutes in this temperature just to go off, and then I can start putting the cover on the polytunnel. So today the temperature is still only about 3 or 4 degrees, but we've got a nice bit of sunshine. I can see the steam coming off of the wooden fences where the sun is actually having an effect, which is lovely. So it's time for me to crack on and get that concrete in. Well, now the posts are set in the ground, and I've also prepared a trench along each side which will take the tails of the polytunnel, as there's an excess of around about ½ a metre on the bottoms, and that will turn into the ground, and then we'll overfill that with soil, which will also add to the strengthening. So now all that's done, my next job is to go and actually get the plastic and fit that over the top. Well, there we are, one polytunnel nicely put up, and the sides are now all buried underneath some soil. So I'm very, very happy with that, and it's going to be a great addition to the garden. but there's only one more job I've got to do, and that is I've got to put the ropes over the top, because as I've said before, we do get some really strong winds coming in from the northwest, and those winds could cause damage to the tunnel. So I need to keep it down to the ground, which is why I've put the anchors into the ground, and that's my next job now. So the next time we see this, the rope should be on there and everything should be looking hunky-dory. We can then get to work inside with some plants. Lovely. Well, that's it. Ropes are on, it's in the ground, it's concreted, bit of tidying up around the edges, and it's all going to be smart. Just going to drop the doors down now and seal it up before I can start putting some cabbage seeds and bits and pieces inside. So hey, really looking forward to using this, and that is going to be such a great addition to the garden. So happy days. Well, now here I am back in the garden office, and I've been working on plans for the vegetable garden for the first sowings, and I'm going to do a series of these plans for succession growing throughout the year, but this is how we're going to be starting off. So I've got here the greenhouse, here the polytunnel, and the 3 raised beds that I have at the moment. Now once we extend the growing into my neighbour's garden, we will probably have another 5, maybe even 6 more raised beds, and that will really help with the diversity of the crops that we can grow. But what I've got planned, firstly for the greenhouse, obviously I've got my seeds and my table, which are shown by the brown area here, and then the green area is for my tomatoes. Along the polytunnel I've got cabbages, cauliflower and beetroot coming on one side, and then some marrow, carrots, cucumber and salad leaves to grow on the other. In my first bed I'm having my climbing beans and my peas, second bed potatoes, and the third bed is the garlic, parsnip and onions, and the garlic we've already got in the ground, and I'll show you how that's coming on in just a moment. So that's the basic plan for the veg garden for this year, and so now we can set about starting to work on preparing that area. Well, now I've got my seeds ordered and the plans for the planting are all on the computer, I can start preparing the beds. So I've come down to the polytunnel and been doing a little bit of digging in the soil and tidying things up, and what we've got now is the first side of beds prepared. I'll still need to be digging in some fish blood and bone and some general fertiliser to make sure the ground is suitable for the plants. But what I have done is I've measured out and divided up the various beds and put in a small section of timber across the divisions, which will give me the 3 beds on this side, and this is where I'm going to be doing my cabbages and my cauliflowers. So quite looking forward to getting all this going, but for now I've got to finish the preparations in here, and also one of my raised beds, which is looking a lot worse for wear, get the sides on that rebuilt and get that ready, and that's the one that's going to be taking my potatoes, so I've got a fair bit of work to do on that one. But this is all about being prepared for a successful harvest, so sowing for success, and that's what we're doing now. We're sowing the ground, preparing the ground for our seeds, which will start off in the greenhouse before bringing out here. That's the first of the beds, first 3 built in there. So for my cabbages and things to come inside, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of gravel down the centre, and then I'm going to replicate the beds on this side of the polytunnel. So I've still got a lot of work to do there. While we're talking about sowing for success, just thought I'd show you, these are the garlic that I planted back in, I think it was November, and they're coming through nicely. We've got 10 plants there, which will be more than enough for me for next year. Now, January is the time when we can really be preparing and maintaining our borders. Now, this area of the garden here is where I'm going to be planting a couple of fruit trees, and I'm going to be underplanting that with some nice bulbs and some herbaceous plants. Give me a nice bit of colour in this side of the border. On the other side here, I've already got that lovely rhododendron growing in a border, which I'm going to be tidying up as well. And then I've got to extend the border in the middle of the garden. This then will bring the garden in around me. And if you remember, in I think it was June of last year, I did a little video called Pause for Thought, where I stated that I wanted the garden to be encompassing and around me, and this is part of that overall plan for the garden. So one of the things that we do in January is we get our borders sorted out for the year. The ground is now soft, the frost has gone, and I can get on with digging this. January, February time, it's to have a look at what bulbs and seeds you're going to be planting and growing over the next year. Get those ordered now. So I'm just sitting here on the computer, and I've been having a look. There's a nice pack here of spring flowering bulbs. Now, it's a bit late really to be putting those in for spring now, but I'm going to order myself a pack of those. $3.99 for a mixed pack. Can't go wrong with that, can I? Now, I've also got some freesias which I've already ordered, and they will be here in the next couple of days, and I'll be planting those up in the greenhouse. So hey, this is a great time of year because it's a time to really look forward to how the garden is going to go in the coming 12 months. Happy days, oh yes, happy days. Another thing about January is being prepared for the worst, and we do get snow in late January, February, sometimes March, even April, and snow can be a real problem for our evergreen plants. What I have is I have one of these brushes, and I keep it handy so that if we do get snow on them and it starts to bring the boughs down, we can just brush that snow off of the plant, and that helps the plant. You don't want to be standing in your borders, so this one has a nice extending handle, and I can just bring it in and out, and then I can clean the snow off the plants if I need to. Fingers crossed I won't have to, but you never know. One last little job which you can do January, February time is to make sure your garden furniture is in a nice condition. Now, you may remember at the end of last year I stripped all of the old rotten wood off of this table. I've now fitted some new reclaimed timber onto the surface, and I've shaped the ends. I've just got to get this stained down, and that's going to serve me for quite a few more years. So another little January job. Have a look at your garden furniture. Well, the last thing that I must remind you about for January is the big garden bird watch. And it's the one thing that Julie and I look forward to doing together every year. 1 hour. So this year, I believe it's the 29th to the 31st of January. Just choose an hour, sit down with your partner, with your family, or just on your own. Watch the birds, count the birds. So to join in, all you need to do is text the word bird to 88008, or you can pop onto the RSVP website, which is rsvp.org, and you can sign up to join in this year. doesn't cost you anything, gives you a great deal of joy. Well, that brings me to the end of this little show for January. And thank you very much once again for joining me. It is greatly appreciated. Today we've covered the building of the new polytunnel, the preparation of the ground inside the polytunnel to receive the plants, and also a few little jobs that we're going to be looking forward to doing during the course of this time of year. In the next show I'm going to be looking at planting some bare root plants, some shrubs and some trees. I'm going to be planting some seeds ready to be transplanted into the polytunnel, and that's all going to be in the greenhouse. And we're also going to be planting some spring, early summer bulbs. Also, we're going to be looking at the project planning for the year, and we've got a couple of projects in line, but the first one that I'm going to actually be doing will be installing the gate between my vegetable garden and my neighbour's garden in order to extend the vegetable growing. Well, that's it for this little show. Thank you once again for joining me. Just leaves me to grab a little glass, and today I've been joined by a golden hobgoblin. So stay safe, be kind, happy gardening, and cheers.